Steady-state thermal analysis is an important module in Ansys. In this example, you will learn how to perform a thermal analysis in Ansys, incorporating radiation and convection boundary conditions. This module investigates each part's temperature and heat flux in the model, which are important in engineering. We can also see the value of heat conduction, convection, and radiation. Hello, I'm Armin. Welcome to my channel. Before we begin, let me give you a brief overview of heat transfer. Let's get started. Heat transfer is the process of energy transfer between systems or within a system due to a temperature difference. It occurs naturally from regions of higher temperature to lower temperature and continues until thermal equilibrium is achieved. Heat transfer occurs through three primary mechanisms: conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction transfers heat through a material or between materials in direct contact, driven by molecular interactions. Convection occurs when heat is transferred through the motion of a fluid, combining bulk movement with internal conduction. Radiation, unlike the other two, transfers heat via electromagnetic waves and does not require a physical medium. Conduction is heat transfer through a solid or between materials in direct contact, driven by molecular interactions. Energy moves as faster-moving molecules collide with slower-moving ones, as seen in heat traveling along a metal rod or through walls. Convection transfers heat through fluid movement, combining bulk motion with conduction. It occurs naturally due to buoyancy forces or can be forced by devices like fans or pumps. Examples include boiling water or air cooling with a fan. Radiation is the heat transfer through electromagnetic waves, which can occur even in a vacuum, as it doesn't require a physical medium. All objects emit thermal radiation. Examples include heat from the sun warming the earth, or the heat you feel from a campfire. Ambient radiation refers to heat transfer between a surface and its surroundings, such as the environment or an open space. Surface-to-surface radiation, on the other hand, describes heat transfer that occurs directly between two or more surfaces. This interaction depends on their temperatures, surface properties, and their relative orientations. The model consists of three panels and a single heat source. The heat source is connected to the ground panel, and heat is transferred through the panel via conduction. Additionally, all surfaces experience convection to the ambient. Radiation occurs between the heat source and the two panels. The colored arrows in the figure indicate the different heat transfer mechanisms. In the results section, you will learn how to extract temperature data, analyze it using probes, calculate heat flux, and determine the contributions of conduction, convection, and radiation to the overall heat transfer. Let's begin modeling. To perform a steady-state thermal analysis, I will add the steady-state thermal system to the project schematic by dragging and dropping it from the toolbox. I need to include aluminum and tungsten as materials for the analysis. To do this, I will double-click on Engineering Data to open it. Then, I'll hit on Engineering Data Sources. In the Engineering Data Sources section, I will expand the Thermal Materials library, locate aluminum and tungsten, and click the yellow plus icon next to each material to add them to the model. After choosing a material, the Engineering Data icon was added to column C. Once the materials are added, I will close the Engineering Data window. To create the geometry for my analysis, I will use Space Claim. I will open it by right-clicking on the geometry cell in the steady-state thermal system and selecting Space Claim from the context menu. I'll start by creating the ground. First, I'll select the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle at the origin with dimensions 500 mm by 1000 mm. After completing the sketch, I'll click on End Sketch Editing. Next, I'll assign a thickness of 20 mm to the rectangle. To create the second part, I'll begin by enabling sketch mode. Then, I'll choose the edge of the existing part as the starting reference for the new sketch. Now I can choose the rectangle tool and draw the sketch part. To create the side panel, I'll position the cursor at the origin and press the Shift key to specify an offset of 100 millimeters in the Y direction. Then, I'll draw the rectangle with dimensions 20 millimeters by 400 millimeters. Once the sketch is complete, I'll click in Sketch Editing and pull the rectangle 500 millimeters. Note that I will include a minus sign before the 500 value. Another rectangle needs to be created. I'll enable Sketch Mode again and choose the edge of the first part. Now, I will select the Rectangle tool and draw a rectangle 10 millimeters by 500 millimeters. I need to choose a 3-point rectangle and draw it. After finishing the sketch, I'll click in Sketch Editing and pull it to 500 millimeters. I'll ensure that each part is appropriately named to maintain clarity in the model. To rename each part, I'll press the F2 key, allowing me to edit the selected part name. In the final step, I'll create the heat source on the top of the first part. First, I'll hide the other parts. Then, I'll enable Sketch Mode and draw a circle with a diameter of 100 millimeters. The location of the heat source is approximate for this model. Before exiting from the sketch, I need to hide the panel to prevent merging them. I'll pull the heat source geometry to a height of 50 millimeters. To finalize the design, I'll add a fillet with a radius of 25 millimeters. We can create it by selecting the edge and pulling it. To view the complete geometry, I'll unhide all the parts in the model. Finally, I'll rename this part as heat source. The geometry is now complete, and I can exit Space Claim to proceed with the next steps in the analysis. In this section, we need to prepare the model. First, I'll double-click on the model cell. Before starting, I'd like to assign materials to each part. To do this, I'll expand the Geometry section in the Outline window and assign materials to each part accordingly. Multiple parts can be selected by pressing and holding the Control key. In this example, I'll assign aluminum to these parts. Contact is an important feature of this model. I'll click on Contact Region, which displays the contact area between the heat source and the ground. This contact facilitates heat transfer via conduction. I've kept the default settings for this option. Next, let's generate the mesh. I'll right-click on Mesh and select the Generate Mesh option. The default mesh is coarse, so I'll use the sizing option and specify a 1 cm element size for all bodies. After regenerating the mesh, you can see that the mesh is much finer than the default. A fine mesh captures the thermal gradient more effectively. It's important to note that the initial temperature doesn't affect the results since this is a steady-state solution. The initial temperature is only relevant for transient solutions. Finally, let's prepare the boundary conditions for the model. I want to start by defining convection. I'll right-click on Steady-State Thermal and select Convection. Next, I'll choose the surfaces of the parts. In a real-world scenario, convection would need to be specified for all surfaces, but since this is an educational video, I'll simplify the process. I'll assign a film coefficient of 2 and an ambient temperature of 15. Next, let's add an internal heat source to the model. This can be done by right-clicking on Steady-State Thermal and selecting Internal Heat Generation. I'll choose the heat source part and specify a value of 1 million. To analyze the results, I'll start by investigating the temperature. I'll do this by right-clicking on Solution and selecting Temperature. Additionally, I'll add total heat flux in the same way. Finally, let's solve the model by right-clicking on Solution and selecting Solve. The solution is complete, so we can now investigate the temperature. To improve the clarity of the results, I'll hide elements. A thermal gradient is visible in the ground. Using the probe tool, we can examine the temperature at specific locations. I'll click on several points to mark the temperatures. As you can see, the temperatures of the side and upper panels remain equal to the ambient temperature because radiation wasn't specified for the heat source or the panels. To include radiation in the model, I'll right-click on Steady-State Thermal and select Radiation. Then, I'll choose the surface of the heat source. Since the heat source radiates heat to the panels, I'll change the radiation setting from ambient to surface. The ambient temperature is set to 15 degrees Celsius, and I'll assign an emissivity value of 0.7. Now, the heat radiates to the other surfaces. Next, I'll solve the model again. Once the solution is complete, we can observe that the maximum temperature decreases from 417 degrees Celsius to 316 degrees Celsius due to radiation. Using the probe tool, I'll recheck the temperatures of the parts. As you can see, the panel's temperatures remain at 15 degrees Celsius because radiation wasn't specified for the panels. I'll right-click on Steady-State Thermal and select Radiation. Then, I'll choose the front surface of the panels. Note that emissivity and absorptivity are assumed to be equal. After that, I will change the radiation correlation to surface. The emissivity is set to 0.5, and the ambient temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. Now, I'll solve the model again. The solution is complete, and the minimum temperature has increased to 16 degrees Celsius. Using the probe tool, I'll examine the panel temperatures, which show an increase. To make the results clearer, I'll visualize only the temperatures of the side and upper panels. The temperature gradient across the panels is now clearly visible. The red area is near the heat source and indicates a higher temperature. Next, let's investigate the heat flux. I'll enable the vector display to observe the path of heat transfer. Numerous arrows in the heat source illustrate the direction of heat transfer. In this section, I'd like to explain radiation to the ambient. To do this, I suppress the panels and slightly change the location of the heat source. In the first step, I'll right-click on Steady-State Thermal and select Convection. Then, I'll choose the surfaces of the heat source and the panel. The film coefficient and temperature are set to 2 and 15 degrees Celsius, respectively. Next, I'll add a heat source by right-clicking on Steady-State Thermal and selecting Heat Generation. I'll choose the heat source and specify a value of 100,000 watts per square meter. I'll delete the previous results and solve the model again. The solution is complete, and we can observe the temperature and heat flux. As expected, both temperature and heat flux are lower than before. Now it's a good time to add radiation to the heat source. I'll do this by right-clicking on Steady-State Thermal and selecting Radiation. Like before, I'll choose the surface of the heat source and specify 0.7 for emissivity and 15 degrees Celsius for temperature. I won't change the radiation correlation as it is set to ambient by default. I'll solve the model again. The solution shows that the temperature decreases by about 3 degrees Celsius due to radiation. Finally, let's investigate the effect of the contact. I'll suppress the contact region and expect heat to no longer transfer to the panel. We need to solve the model again. The solution is complete, so now I'll investigate the temperature. As you can see, there is no heat transfer between the heat source and the panel because there is no contact between them. Next, let's check the heat flux by selecting Total Heat Flux. The results show that the heat only radiates to the ambient. I'll unsuppress the contact region and solve the model again. This time, I want to observe the amount of convection and radiation heat transfer in the model. To do this, I'll right-click on Solution and select Reaction. I'll set the boundary condition to Convection. Then, I'll duplicate the reaction probe and set the boundary condition to Radiation. After that, I'll right-click on Solution and select Evaluate All Results. Now we can see the results. The convection heat transfer is approximately 32 watts, while the radiation heat transfer, shown in Reaction Probe 2, is about 3 watts. The minus sign indicates that heat is exiting the heat source. In the final step, I'll enable the Contact tool from the solution to observe the heat transfer between the heat source and the panel. I'll right-click on Contact tool and select Heat Flux. Now we can see the average, minimum, and maximum heat transfer in the contact region. This tutorial concludes. If you find the video helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Thank you for watching.